Is he a flawless character? Absolutely not. But man, does that character have peaks. I think broad appeal has to count for something. I don't think niche appeal should count for something. Maybe that's rude of me to say. Having a very unique character doesn't necessarily mean it's good. Again, not a flawless character, but man, there is just nothing like him. And it's done really well. I think there's only a few characters in the game that have good arguments for being deleted from the game. She's better. She's just better. I'm sorry, you don't deserve to be compared. Okay. So I saw this in competitive Overwatch and I was immediately like, hey, that's actually a pretty fun idea. I think somebody actually mentioned that to me before and I was like, maybe we'll do it. I feel like this one is going to be, I think, probably pretty subjective to state the obvious, because I do think that they're like, you can talk, I think it would be more objective if you're like healthy for the game, you know what I'm saying? But like the design of the hero, I think it definitely includes like a lot of like fun factors, even if they're super unhealthy. So it's like, I don't know, maybe that those are kind of one and the same. So maybe when we talk about hero design, it's like partially like how healthy is this character for the game? Not how healthy is like for like the meta necessarily, but it's like how inoffensive is this character? Like, is this a good design? Was it well designed? Not necessarily is it well balanced so much as is it like a good character? You know what I'm saying? In terms of not like, oh, is it fun? Because like I freaking enjoyed. I mean, everybody loves a little bit of Junkrat cancer every now and again, but like that's not healthy. That's not a good design. And I think especially we have to consider Overwatch 2 here, whereas characters that may have been okay in Overwatch 1 just aren't so okay. Spilo is a product. The model of the character too, not the like how it looks, no, how it functions, sure. I think Cassidy, like honestly, like Cassidy, like having like a short to mid-range hit scan character with like dueling potential is not like a bad thing. I just think the execution is really bad, you know? I don't think Cassidy is like fundamentally a flawed character necessarily. I just think his current iteration is like really bad. Mauga tier? Yeah, maybe we'll do that. But I don't want to do anything. I don't want to get the cart before the horse. We'll get there. We'll get there. But yeah, I think currently like Cassidy, like right now, like the mag grenade alone would put him in here. But then also the fact that he doesn't really have a clear identity on like what is he supposed to do is not helpful. I actually think D.Va belongs here. And hear me out. I think D.Va belonged here or maybe even here in Overwatch 1. I think that she was one of the best designed heroes in Overwatch 1 for the role that she filled, the niche that she filled. In fact, she was so good that D.Va metas were almost always the best metas because they either, whether it was a brawl meta, whether it was a dive meta, she was like a good gatekeeper to a lot of really bad things. But as a solo tank, she doesn't function very well, sadly. It's not, but this again, I want to be very clear. It doesn't mean that if D.Va were to become meta, it would be like, oh, she's a cancer, terrible, unbalanced, awful tank. I don't mind playing that much versus D.Va. I don't think really anyone minds versus D.Va, but like again, we're not looking at it from like how likely do you want to play versus them, because D.Va would be fine, you know. D.Va, but like she's just not a very good character right now. Yeah. This one's hard for me because Genji is not flawless. Like I might say maybe like a character like Tracer is almost. But I feel like Genji has higher peaks than Tracer in terms of like how flow, fun, enjoyable the character is. You know what I'm saying? So you look at like something like Nano, right? Exactly. Blade combos, something like that. He still has his aspects that feel terrible. But like the reason why I'm still tempted to put him at the top is partially selfish reasons, but I know so many people, and I'm one of them, that only play Overwatch because of Genji. They literally, and from like, we were like, I was like, I never played a first-person shooter before in my life. And I log in at my friend's house, and I play one game of Genji, and I'm like, this is amazing. I want to play this character. And like, I think that has to be like, that has to count for something. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, is he a flawless character? Absolutely not. But man, does that character have peaks. There's so many. I know more people that started playing the game because of Genji than any other character in the game, by far, by a large margin. And and a lot of people I've coached. A lot of people I've coached. It's like, oh, what got you in the game? Oh, I started to play and I tried Genji and and I got hooked. And I think like that has to count for something. So not a flawless character. I don't think the top tier will be flawless. I think flawless is, but I think like that has to count for something. I don't think you have to do the appeal of the character, but I don't know. This is where it gets subjective because I think Mercy's like down here. And yet there's a lot of people that only play this game because of Mercy. I'm trying to differentiate between broad, like a broad. I think broad appeal has to count for something. I don't think niche appeal should count for something. Maybe that's rude of me to say. But I think having a very unique character doesn't necessarily mean it's good. But I think that's the difference between the Genji and Mercy appeal, I think. Because Genji is a broad appeal that most people enjoy to some extent. Whereas Mercy is a very, 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 very niche thing. Mercy was a big draw for people who played healers and MMOs from Overwatch. Fair enough. I did not know Naruto run now. Yeah, I mean, I think playstyle obviously is a big thing here. I think this has to be here. I think there are aspects of the character that are really fun. But I think that Hanzo remains a very difficult character to balance. I think you could even maybe even put him here. I actually think this is a hot take. You guys ready for a hot take? Hanzo might be harder to balance than Bastion or Mercy. Just because of his design. I think you could fundamentally rework the worst parts of Bastion and Mercy, but I don't know what you would how could you I don't know how you would balance Hanzo. No. You guys are not see. This is why I have to explain these things. I'm not saying he's as bad as Mercy and Bastion at all. It's not so much about the feel or even balance things, right? I'm talking about like the core design of the character. You can fundamentally replace gears in Bastion and Mercy, and maybe not fix, but improve the design. How do you do that with Hanzo? You can't take away his one shot without destroying his entire identity. I just don't know that you can. I don't know that you could do it. You could reach out to me in Discord, Jobby. Discord. I think snipers in general are a really, really hard thing. I think it has nothing to do with the sniper necessarily. I think Widow falls here too. Same kind of thing. Widow's not like my, public enemy number one for me right now. But hero design, she's not. It's not good. I don't know that you can. The only argument you could make is what Rav is saying, which is like Hanzo's hard to balance, but things like Sonic Arrow, Wall Climb, and Bow feel so good. Where like Hanzo belongs here because he's really bad, but there's aspects of him that feel really good for a lot of people, right? He is a relatively fluid character, so he does get points for that. But the concept is fundamentally flawed. One-shot projectiles. Yeah. Oh, Cass and Hanzo definitely belong in the same tier. Cass is not as flawed, but is in a much worse state with Hinder and having no identity right now. Hanzo is in a much more healthy state right now, but is a much more fundamentally flawed character. Cass could go up. Hanzo is as good as he's probably ever going to get. Widow, I'm honestly not too sure. I think Widow falls down here because Widow feels good, but nothing about her kit feels good. Grapple is whatever. Ult is whatever. Venomine is whatever. There's nothing that's like particularly fluid or fun. I think Widow is just, whatever. mean, Junkrat, obviously. Junkrat has aspects that are pretty fun. I think his mobility feels pretty fun. But the problem with Junkrat is even his mobility is bad design. Like his mobility forces you to go up. It doesn't even let you like actually get the angle correct. No, my thing. I try to close it. No. Can I control Z it? Yes, I can. As I desperately try to close off my backup, cloud backup. Yeah, I mean it. But even the thing, his trap is poor design. His mobility, like I said, for the Junkrat player is annoying because it forces you up. Yeah, no, Junk is in the bottom tier. He's a fundamentally flawed character. He could be fixed, but a spam character with a trap and whose mobility hasn't been updated since 2015, nah, he belongs in the bottom tier. It's not even like one of those things where like I don't even think he feels. I think actually in some ways Bastion currently is more fluid to play than Junkrat. I know. I think Lucio has to go up. Again, not a flawless character, but man, there is just nothing like him, and it's done really well. Very skillful, very difficult, unbelievable skill ceiling. Very fair character to play versus and against. The aspect of speed is, I think, is a really unique and cool thing in a team-based shooter. I think Lucio's great. It's just, I mean, come on, like it's such a unique and cool thing, and done very well. Yeah, I think Junk is fixable. I do think Junk is fixable. I mean, we had it. He was one of the characters that we looked at. He's definitely in. I think there were ways to bump Junk to like here. I think. Let's put it that way. I don't think you can say the same for Widow. May. If it was Overwatch 1, I'd actually put her near the bottom. But since they've taken a little bit of her emphasis away from freeze, the only thing that I'm on the fence here. Because Wall is I think Wall is a lot of fun in Overwatch 2. I think they could probably turn the HP down more, but it's a lot of fun to use. I think her icicles are really good to use. I don't think she's particularly unhealthy for the game. The problem with May still that makes me hesitate putting her here is Blizzard, I think. I think it's Blizzard. And Ice Block is not a super crazy ability either. It's not like it's a bad ability, it just is. So, when we're competing for mid to top, there needs to be like good things. I might have to insert another tier. What do you guys think about Pharah down the bottom? Flying explosive projectile hero with. She just said, I think Pharah, people hate playing versus Pharah and people hate playing with Pharah, right? Has to be here, right? Nobody likes playing Pharah. Yeah. I mean, she has fewer people playing Pharah than playing Junkrat and Bastion, right? So here, only because he has like something of a cooldown cycle that makes sense. It's just not always very well executed. The whole gunplay is pretty fluid with him, the reload and the way the weapons work. But he's not, yeah. He has something of a cooldown cycle, right, which is kind of unique for a DPS, but it's just done very poorly. Okay, you guys ready for a take? Yeah, what's up, Scythiel?
May's great.
I love you too, man. Maybe? I mean, there's just nothing like it, right? I think, especially with the pin changes. I think anything that feels bad with Rein in Overwatch 2 is not Rein's fault. I think it is these heroes down here's fault. I don't know. I don't know if I want to knock him down a tier. Maybe one. Maybe because he is competing with Genji and Lucio. That's true. He's too simple to be up top. That is okay. You know what? Actually, that's the one. That is a fair critique. He is a very simple character. So there's nothing wrong with Rein. I would change nothing about Rein, but he is simple compared to some of the other characters that we might put up there. No. Not simple in terms of character design, and too easy, I would say. He's not the hardest tank. I do agree with that. Depth and simplicity can coexist, but I don't think Rein is the first tank that I think of when I think of that. I'm not saying that Rein is easy, but he's definitely not the hardest simple tank. You guys can probably guess who I'm referring to here. I think there's another tank with a very simple kit that is a little bit better designed. Yeah, Hog is just garbage. Hog is the only quote-unquote failed rework I think we ever did. I don't know if you guys saw the tank rework video I released a couple weeks ago. We spent 4 hours, I think, on the Roadhog, and we with 300, I think, suggestions, maybe more, and we came up with some things to make them better, but we couldn't figure it out. I think the hero needs to be deleted. Widow, and you could. I think there's only a few characters in the game that have good arguments for being deleted from the game. Not literally, but Widow is one of them. Roadhog is another one. And Bastion / Mercy in part. But I was legitimately like baffled. You guys ready for a hot take? Actually, you know what? That's probably not much of a hot take. He's a really poor design. He's a very lazy design. He's just it wasn't a bad design because it was a smart design, but it was a bad design. It's just Call of Duty. A permanent sprint, you have a gun, you have a healing station, you have a helix, that's it. The only thing that you could say about him is that his not having a cooldown on your sprint is pretty fluid, but like there's literally nothing special about this at all. Yeah, there has to be ones. Okay, maybe I shouldn't take points away for laziness. I feel like taking points away for laziness because at least even if these characters aren't perfect at points, there's effort. They tried things. So there's the most boring vanilla. There's nothing put in him. He's literally just a copy and paste Call of Duty character. So obviously there's just nothing to go.
Oh boy.
What's up, hottie? Is how fun the character is relevant for the list? I think to an extent, funnest character is fun. Thanks for the raid, Hottie. I really appreciate it. We're doing like a hero design tier list, y'all, where we're talking about like the health, quality, internal, external quality of the initial design right now in Overwatch 2 of the character. Cheers, Hottie. We've got some hot takes already. Yeah, Mauga is definitely near the bottom. I don't think you can have a character like Mauga. I guess we can go ahead and talk about Mauga. So here's the hot take though. Mauga does not belong in his own tier. Hear me out. So Mauga right now, the way his gun, the self-heal works with the gun, no damage mitigation at all. And you could even argue to an extent his ultimate, little bit, not good designs. Like it encourages bad play, very hard to balance around. But there are aspects of him, like his overrun, being able to utilize his weapon at mid to long ranges that are fun. So I think that I think everyone's very sore right now from being slapped around by Mauga, and he's very poorly balanced right now. And I do think that the character is poorly designed, but I don't think that he's unsalvageable. In fact, you could probably argue that Mauga is somewhere along in the lower here, if a balanced and number tweaked him enough. But right now, no. But he could make it here. He could make it here. Hook is fun, but we just went through a couple of things that are fun with Mauga as well, right? If you had more motivation to actually use your overrun and crit slam, that's very fun to do. If you had more motivation to use your weapons at range, that's also very fun to do. So there's aspects that are there, that there's potential there, but just not right now. I agree. I think, yeah, people I think Ramattra is also quite bad. We'll get there as well, but I agree. I don't like Ramattra as well. Although I think Ramatra's Omnic form does have potential, with especially the Vortex. But I think right now he's not good. People say that. I've been saying that since his release, before his release, actually, when they released the example gameplay. But people don't want to hear that. People don't want to hear that Ramattra is boring. I think that the last 4 hero releases have been misses. Personally, I don't think they've hit since Kiriko. And Kiriko is her own bundle of baggage, to be fair. But I don't think. Yeah, I think they've all been misses. They haven't fallen until now. But what aspects of designer re-rating? Balance, fun, dynamics, skill, expression. How they fit in the Overwatch 2 meta / headspace. Yeah, Ramattra's visual and audio design is so good, people really want to like him. Yeah, exactly. That's the shame. Is he is actually he's a bad man. What's up, Epic? Thanks for the sub, mate.
Hi, coach.
I think Illari is okay. I don't hate it. I don't like Illari. I think Illari does the same thing, and that's all she does. She takes an angle, she pylons, and she shoots. She doesn't really have any real utility. She doesn't really have any real dynamics with how she plays. She just holds an angle and shoots, which I don't think is that fun. Okay, let's keep going. I actually think Sim belongs here, since all of her reworks. The reason why you could argue that she's maybe in this range is because, turrets, ha ha ha. But I actually think the worst part about Sim now is I think her wall is really badly designed. I think her wall is terrible. Not good for the game. Not an interactive or enjoyable ultimate to play with or against. The teleporter is good. Yeah, the teleporter is unique. Her weapons are unique in an aspect. But yeah, it's mostly like the whole like build your beam up kind of a thing is kind of weird and more tank focused. It's definitely a character that depending on the rank you like certain things less. Like low ranks hate the left click, but left click is like not that relevant in higher ranks. It's all about like the flank right click, right? So good design. You could actually make a pretty good argument that they should put teleport on a cooldown on walking out of spawn, but I feel like that'd break the hero. That'd break one of the reasons why you play the character. But yeah, Symmetra has potential. I think the ultimate is like I said, I really don't like the ultimate. I think the ultimate is not good design. Having a giant wall, basically that's unbreakable. It's like, I don't know. Like it's really strong. It's just I don't enjoy it. I think Torb is bottom tier, to be honest with you. They've tried and they failed. He's not as bad as he was in Overwatch 1, but he's still bad. Having a builder hero flop this badly is really, I think, embarrassing. Like I think they've moved away from the whole builder concept. But he doesn't do anything. Like he doesn't build. There's no choice. There's no options. There's no variety. His deployables are either wildly broken and easy to use or totally useless. His ultimate is not all that interesting. His gun is very, very spammy. His hitbox, there's just nothing good about Torbjorn. Deserves hard because the naked Torb 18 plus glitch. Yeah, I don't like Torb. I think he's not like the worst hero in the history of the universe, but like there's just nothing. There's the thing with Torbjorn is like you look at this list on here, and there's really bad heroes down here. Heroes that are probably even worse than Torbjorn, but they all have like redeeming there is nothing redeeming about Torbjorn besides funny hammer kills. I mean, there literally is nothing. Like I think that's subjectively there is nothing good about Torbjorn's hammer design or fun about Torbjorn's hammer design. Period. His ult's lame. His turret's lame. His overload is lame. His primary fire and his secondary fire. Maybe the secondary fire, the dynamic there is kind of interesting, but that there's nothing there. There's nothing redeemable about the character. Pretty sure Torb is actually the best design character. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not even like a question of whether he's easy to play or he's a healthy character, although that is part of it. There's just nothing redeemable about him either. What if you make Torb make different turrets like in the PvE? I mean, that's the question, right? Like, I think like that's the only way that you redeem him if you brought some sort of like builder identity back that took skill, and even then people still would not want to shoot turrets, Tracer, obviously, just like, I mean, it's hard to beat Tracer. You could even argue that Tracer's above Genji, not because her peaks are consistently higher necessarily, but because there is nothing about Tracer's kit that isn't good. There's nothing. It is all the way through perfect. I think Pulse Bomb is the perfect ultimate. I think Blink is the perfect cooldown. I think Recall is the perfect cooldown. I think that her weapons function. I think she probably does a little bit too much damage right now. Yeah, I mean, I think she's perfect. People are always like, oh, Overwatch always babies Tracer. Whenever anybody tells you that Overwatch struggled because they baby Tracer and they refused to nerf their poster child, give them the middle finger because they're idiots. There's a reason why. You cannot hold Tracer to Junkrat standards. They are not the same. You guys ever seen The Boys? What is that one scene? I'm better. That's Tracer. She's better. She's just better. I'm sorry, you don't deserve to be compared to Tracer. You don't put in the same amount of effort as Tracer. You don't. The character doesn't have as much counterplay as Tracer. The character doesn't have as many mechanical and dynamic expressions as character. She's better. She's just better, and she deserves to be better. And not only does she deserve to be better, it's better for you that she's better. The game isn't good when Tracer isn't playable. You want her to be better. It's better for you to be better because you can outplay Tracer. She can make a mistake. Even the best Tracers in the world make mistakes and die. So it's like, there's so many characters down here that it's, even if they make mistakes, it doesn't matter, right? Or it's very easy to not make mistakes and so on. So the reason Genji is, I would put Tracer above, I put Tracer and Genji in the same tier, even though I think Tracer's the overall better design hero, is that Genji has, I think, higher peaks of fun and an experience that that Tracer can't really reach. But yeah, I mean, Tracer is honestly a real accomplishment. I don't think they definitely took some ideas, I think, from like Scout and TF2, but I think Tracer is a real pinnacle in Overwatch design. I think it's kind of one of the most simple kits, simple thing. Very rarely do you feel cheated. Really, really well done. You couldn't disagree more. Oh no, I'm sorry about your Torb, mate. I'm sorry. I think Winston's up here too. I think Winston is the slightly better version of Reinhardt. Hottie viewers, don't kill me. I think Winston as a simplistic hero design like Rein, but has more skill expression in different ways than Rein does. It's like Winston is like Reinhardt, but a little bit better in multiple different categories. I actually think the right click thing was also a cool little expression they added as well. But you have Primal Rage, you have bubble placements, jumps, anything with mobility automatically has a slightly higher healthier skill curve, vertical mobility specifically. That might be a wrap for the Holy Grail tier list. But I think there'll be a few others that are dancing around it, maybe. I think, man, I don't know. Zarya's a tough one for me. I think Zarya belongs down here, but for slightly different reasons. I think Zarya, again, similarly to D.Va, it's another one of those off-tank things, was a very good tank for Overwatch 1. Did a lot of great things for Overwatch 1 in terms of the ability to enable another off-tank. But yeah, in Overwatch 2, she's struggled a little bit more. The ability to double bubble yourself, the limited range, the limited mobility. Any brawl tank without mobility doesn't do so well in Overwatch 2. And I think Zarya kind of falls into that category right now. Even though she has a bit of poke, she can bubble from range. I think in Overwatch 1, I think immediately we bump her up. But this is an Overwatch 1. So, yeah. There are aspects of Overwatch 2 Zarya that are still fun. You know, I don't dislike Zarya, but I don't think she's a great character right now where she is. Was my favorite Ken Carson song? I'm honestly not too sure. Not too sure, actually. I don't know how to feel about Zen. I think Zen is one of those things that we have to put a lot of thought into. I don't like where he's at right now too much. I think Zenyatta in Overwatch 1 probably bumps up, but right now, it feels like he's experiencing an identity crisis. And I say this as somebody who, Zen is my number one play character. He has a bit of an identity crisis where he felt very fragile in Overwatch 2 with 200 HP. There's a lot more dueling taking place in Overwatch 2. So Zen struggled at points. So now they buffed his dueling potential while nerfing his overall just Discord spam, beating the crap out of the enemy team. And now it's like, kind of where does he fall? I think he's a bit of an identity crisis right now. I think there are aspects of the character that are super fluid. The 0 cooldowns, at least until the Discord change. Really, really nice. Very fluid character in that aspect. No mobility. And the way his primary fire works, very, very satisfying. The ultimate is good. It's just a weird position he's in right now. He's in a weird spot. I think prior at Overwatch 1, I think this character is here. Like I said, now I don't know where he's at right now, which is tough, but I think that's just how it is. I don't think Zen is worse than that because even if they never fix Zen, the character still feels very fluid to play in many aspects and is still an attractive support to play for people that play support. He's still fun, very fun. So I think like if they never figured Zen out, he would still just sit here just based off of the merit that his initial design was still a lot of fun to play. He will coast infinitely at that level. Maybe getting no better, maybe getting no worse, but still here. Least bias placement. I mean, tell me I'm wrong. You are wrong. Well, I knew that wasn't wrong. That didn't take long. The only reason that you could argue that Zen belongs a little bit lower is with the single tank Discord. I think that the only reason that you could argue Zen is here is that they gave Discord a cooldown instead of just nerfing its effectiveness versus tanks. If they reduce its effectiveness versus tanks, then I think he 100% belongs here. I would much rather prefer saying that Zen has gained 75 HP over the course of Overwatch history is kind of disingenuous. I mean, obviously, but a lot of things changed early on. But we're not going back to 6v6. So we're judging things based off of the 5v5 metric. You know what I'm saying? Whereas when we say Reinhardt's fine, even if he feels bad because it's not Rein's fault, that's because of things that absolutely can and should change. But we're not going back to 6v6. So to me, I think if anything, I'm going to leave Zen here because I'm biased. But I think Zen has a good argument to be here until they actually nerf the Discord effectiveness versus tanks and take the cooldown, because a cooldown feels terrible. The cooldown is literally only there to give tanks something to play around, but they don't need to play around it as much if it was only 15% instead of 25% or whatever. How does Zen have more skill expression in a 5v5 context than 6v6? I'm not sure I understand what you're saying. More dueling potential for sure. I don't know if there's more skill expression. I think Zen is actually a little bit harder to play, but that was before the 225 HP. Why is Reinhardt not in top 10? Because he's not able to compete with these. Ana. Oh man. See, I know what I want to do. But I'm scared. I'm scared of the hive mind here. And I'm going to have to add so many disclaimers. Okay, here with 2 tweaks or minor tweaks away from jumping up to here. Very close to being up to here. Overwatch 1, she's here. Overwatch 2, she's here. But she's tweaks away from being here. She tweaks away from being here. Here are the mistakes. Number 1, support passive. Benefited Ana more than any other support. Maybe Brig, but more than any other support. Number 2, they need to reduce nades duration because it's too easy to land on the one tank right now. Just reduce its duration. You do that, she's here. You do that, she's here. Sleep and nade are miserable to play against, but fun to play with, right? And they do. I don't care what anybody says. There is some level of skill involved. A lot of skill. No. Ana is definitely this high right now. Ana is definitely this high right now. You guys are coping and seething. There are aspects of Ana's kit that feel absolutely terrible to play against. But remember, these characters are not perfect. They're 2 tiers below these tiers, all right? I don't think Nano is a problem, to be honest. I think, yeah. Neither Ana ability is even remotely well designed. Yeah. I Doomfist enthusiast. I hear you. and I disagree. I think Sleep Dart is one of the best abilities they've ever put in this game. A skill shot on a long cooldown. If you're going to have CC in the game, that's where it needs to be. Support bias showing hard? No, you guys are just gaslighting me. Here's what's happened. The community has been slowly taken over by angry tank mains. I understand, but this is not support bias. This is just an immunity to recency bias. That's what it is. I'm fighting recency bias. Everybody wants to sit here and tell me Ana was a terrible design character. Ana was a terrible design character. Nobody was saying this. Nobody was saying this up until the past year. Nobody was saying this. You guys are revisionist history. Nobody was complaining about Nade and Sleep Dart as these wildly broken abilities until recently, 5v5. Now that's where you have to literally look at her kit and be like, okay, yeah, we need to reduce Nade duration in 5v5. It's not good. Obviously, she benefited a lot from support passive in 5v5, so it's not good. But that's part of the discussion. Sleep and Nade, you can't blanket everything. It's not all or nothing. There's nuance here. I met one guy. Actually, you guys want to hear a funny story? The only person who ever legitimately was convinced that Ana was a fundamentally broken character was a family to a friend. I went over to their house for dinner, and he was like some teenager. And dude, the guy was just ranting about how Ana was just fundamentally broken. This was back in like 2018. And so maybe he knew something that we didn't. But I never met. I remember being like, whoa, wait, what? You don't like Ana? Like, who doesn't like Ana? You know, like, yeah. But I think Ana right now is like, she's still a lot of fun to play. There's still ways of outplaying and counterplay for many of the cast, if not all. And the things that are making her weak are things that are, unlike Zenyatta and Diva, relatively fixable. I just disagree, man. I don't think Ana's character design is fundamentally flawed in Overwatch 2. I think it's actually perfect for Overwatch 2. Having a character that is not Kiriko, Moira, whatever level of mobility, that can still function, still has skill play, still has ways of dueling people, still has risk involved, has to choose between nading defensively or aggressively. You know, I think one of the worst things they ever did with nade is reduce its self-healing. Because I think one of the best things that you were ever required to do is make a decision about, do you nade yourself or do you nade aggressively, right? And so when they nerfed the splash healing, they made that decision a lot easier. And the best thing they could probably do is nerf the absolute butt crap out of her passive and actually make you have to choose what to do with your nade, right? And probably buff the healing a little bit. I don't know that I would totally remove the support passive, but they should like double before it kicks in. Like, what is it right now? Is it 2 seconds, guys? Is it 3 seconds? It should be like 6. It should have 0 impact on 1v1s. 0. 3 seconds. Yeah, it should be 6. It should be doubled. Is Nanoblade even broken? Yeah, it's broken. It's broken because it's one of those things where like it does take skill to do, but once you get that base level of skill, it's almost impossible to counterplay. It's not. I'm not saying Nanoblade is easy. It's relatively, once you get to like the certain level of skill, let's put it this way: in Overwatch League, Nanoblade is basically uncounterable. Whenever they were Nano Ana Genji metas during Overwatch 2 at points in time early. First couple of months, you just lost. Yeah, like you can't do anything about it, you know. And there is no ult combo in Overwatch 2 at that level that was comparable. Well, Grav Dragon, but Grav Dragon was people. I played in Grav Dragon metas, and you could play around it at least at the pro level. In fact, it wasn't meta. Grav Dragon wasn't even meta in Overwatch League scrims ever because it was too easy to outplay. One support ult was consistent. You split. I mean, it's a terrible combo for sure, but yeah. Yeah, anyway, let's not go down any more the Ana road. I think both the Zen and the Ana kind of have an asterisk. I'm gonna drop Zen. I'm gonna do it. Just right now. Right now. I feel bad. He's gonna heal. I think he's at the top of this list here, but it feels weird to put Ana and Zen in the same category. Especially considering I feel like Ana's design issues are so much more fixable than Zenyatta's. I think Zenyatta's are so much harder to address. No, I won't move Ana up. I'll move Ana up if they change nade. They actually healthily fix nade and or deal with the support passive. Then Ana goes here, but not until then. Sombra. Disclaimer. Sombra used to be here, but I'm putting her here. Used to be here. Here. Used to be here is now here. She's improved. The rework helped. But perma-stealth, hack, and the recent EMP buff, and honestly, she's another one of those characters where it feels quite difficult to tweak or fix a lot of her issues. I think her design is fundamentally flawed. The whole idea of like a hack, taking away abilities, not a good thing for a character to do. Good rework, but it's very much a fundamentally flawed character, I think. So better, but still like, Hanzo tier where it's like, I don't know, Yo, Saber.
Thanks to @Timothy for my sub.
Yeah, Timothy is a good guy. Why is hack not okay, but sleep is okay? If you don't see the difference between hack and sleep, I don't know what to tell you. If you don't know if you can't see the difference between hack and sleep, I don't know what to tell you. It's like that is quite a comparison. Yeah, I mean, Orisa's down here. Let's not lie. Although, if you guys saw my recent tank rework video, you know that Orisa could actually bump herself up to here. I think that there's potential with like things like Javelin and Javelin Spin, but right now she's definitely here. Definitely here. I actually think Doomfist belongs here. I know I'm going to make some people mad with that, but we had the discussion in the tank rework video already, so I won't go into it all over again. But basically, CC spam tank doesn't have any really way of outplaying CC, and tends to be very snowbally. Right, is either dominating you or is getting dominated, and doesn't really have a good in between. And things like power block, not great, not a great ability. Way too many bugs. I think definitely belongs on here. I think, again, Doomfist balanced properly, bugs fixed, counterplay introduced, could shoot all the way up to here or maybe even low here. But right now, no. Yeah, that's true. Overwatch 1, I think he was definitely more in this department, you know? But yeah, I don't think it deserves to be higher. Both playing up and against and with and as Dooms is still a very annoying experience for everybody involved in many ways. So, better, but, Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're convinced that his rework makes him more fun, but it definitely takes some of the edges off, I think. The Ana placement, you'd have to go back. That was a long discussion. I mean, Moira is terrible. I actually think Moira in some ways is maybe the most unredeemable character in Overwatch 2, where some of these are just like, questionable design, like introduction choices, questionable design choices, questionable overall design, what is Moira? Like what is that character? Like, what is that character? Who thought that was a good idea? Like, what is she? Like, the funny thing about it too is before she was like the flanker. Like, dude, you just heal bot it. Like you just dumped healing like and built Cole. I mean, it is. She really is terrible. She really is terrible. Like, I think you could even argue dropping her below, where some of these other characters have like potential. Moira is just atrocious. Like, I don't even know what does she do. Is for low mechanical skill, but if you don't have high mechanical skill, you still should have to make choices with what you do and how you do it. And Moira also has one of the lowest barriers of entry when it comes to decision making and positioning in the entire game, and that does not have a place in the game. You have to make a choice. These are characters that don't have a lot of mechanical demands, but they have to make choices. And Moira does not have to make those same choices. And the worst part about it is like you feel bad for the Moira players too, because there's only so much that they can do. Brig. Now, boy, that was a tricky one. Brig was an awkward one. Brig was definitely down here on release. And not only do we grade her an F based off of her initial design, but we know that we could grade her an F off of the initial design because of what they said. They introduced Brig to kill dive, and that already tells you as much as that you needed to know about release Brig. Now, that's not current Brig, though. Current Brig has a lot more playmaking potential, requires a lot more skill, and I think the only thing that really ticks me off about current Brig are two things. I think the rally rework was active garbage. I think maybe we should have seen the writing on the wall with the Roadhog rework when they said that they were going to rework rally, and they just gave her a bigger shield, and they gave her stun back. That was a joke. I remember that and I literally thought it was a joke. I thought it was like some April Fool's prank when I first saw it. That was terrible. And then I also think the burst heal on armor pack was a poor design choice, and I think that is. Something whenever you see these clips on Twitter of like supports or OP, It's 50% Suzu, 50% burst armor pack. So like I think Brig probably belongs in here. I think Whip Shot is still pretty fun. I think the change to Bash was good. There's a lot of I don't know, but Inspire is still a problematic. Like the passive heal is problematic. It's bigger than Lucio Aura. I don't know. I really don't like Rally. I think that when they changed, they also nerfed the speed in Rally, which was terrible, right? It's a better ultimate in terms of power. Oh gosh, I'm dying. But it's a worse ultimate for design. Because it reduced the amount of playmaking that you could make because you're slower in Rally than you used to be. So as much as it pains me, I might actually have to put her here. I don't think she's a terrible character. I think she has a real potential to shoot all the way up to here pretty quickly. But I don't think it's going to happen. I would say I might put her in the bottom of this tier. But Rally, Burst Armor Pack, and Inspire are just tough. They actually, the Brig ult rework, they actually made it worse. They actually made the ultimate worse. It would have been better if they'd buffed her in some other way besides her ult and just left her ult as it was. I don't know, bro. I'm really torn on this one. This one feels like Zen. It feels awful because Brig is like not the worst character in the game right now. She takes a decent amount of skill. But at the same time, in terms of like raw design, it just doesn't feel great. There's too many like red flags with this character, I think. Yeah, the Shield Bash, the thing they did with Shield Bash in Overwatch 2 was the best change that she got by far. No stun, more movement, more mobility. Counterplay, dynamics, skill, fun to play versus. There's a lot of aspects of her that are a lot of fun in Overwatch 2, like being able to go in solo plays but like, I don't know, guys. I'm still torn. What do we do? Bottom of C or top of D? If I'm looking at it from a student, it's D. But if I think about it in game, it's not that bad, and it goes to C. Okay. Yeah, she definitely has potential. Like again, if you can deal with like the burst pack, and if somehow like if they reverted some of the rally stuff, she could sneak her way into B even. But they didn't make her better. They made her a lot better. She was really, really boring in Overwatch 1. Even when they nerfed her all the way down, it just wasn't fun. You know, it just... Yeah. Feels wrong to put her on the same level as Zen in design. Yeah. But see, I actually don't think the gap between current Brig and current Zen is that big. Like, I don't think Zen is that much better than current Brig right now in terms of design. I think many aspects of Brig have gotten a lot better in Overwatch 2, and a lot of the aspects of Zen have gotten worse. 225 HP, the boob kick, the solo Discord controversy, and the new Discord change to where it's put on a cooldown right now. His fragility, his lack of fragility. I don't know, you know. Yo, thanks for the gifted sub, Javi. Congratulations, capitalism. So maybe it's not that unreasonable. Okay. Wrecking Ball. I think currently Wrecking Ball is here. I think Wrecking Ball is like the Genji, where there are Wrecking Ball benefits a lot from some crazy things that no other character can do, and you're not going to get in any other game. he is like Doomfist in the fact that he can really struggle versus some things. But I don't think that that's unfixable. I do think that that is fixable. I think Wrecking Ball absolutely can jump to A. It's possible. It's just not right now. I think that the tricky thing with Ball is you always have to be very careful how you buff him so that he's already quite good at killing isolated and solo targets. So we already went over all the things that I would suggest for Wrecking Ball in the tank rework video on YouTube. So I think that this character could absolutely be in Reinhardt tier with peaks that are higher than Reinhardt. No, I think Ball is better than Doom. I think Ball is less of a frustrating experience than Doom and has a lot more individuality than Doom. Maybe not a lot more, but I would say a little bit more. I think Ball's biggest struggle is how, if he doesn't get the stuff that he needs in Overwatch 2, then he's going to remain a wasted potential because of how unique his kit and how many unique aspects that he has that just didn't transition over. You could definitely I understand y'all's argument with Doom and Ball here. The reason my initial instincts are to put Ball higher is because of the unique aspects of his design that I think are more impressive and more enjoyable than Doomfist. And he also doesn't have abominations like Power Block. And I would also argue that the ultimate, Ball's ultimate, also is a lot better designed than Doomfist ult. Is it really unfun for other 9 players in lobby? I don't know. I think to an extent, part of the complaint about Ball needing more frontline presence is just bronze brain, to be honest with you guys. I've never in my life had a hard time playing with the Ball. Never. Not once. I think it's just human psychology being really, really dumb sometimes. People that don't understand the game, they don't understand what a tank means. I refuse to factor that into the equation. If something feels bad and remains feeling bad, even if you know what's going on, then that's understandable. But I think part of it's just dumb bronze brain. And I don't think you should cater to that. I don't think you should apologize for having, because it's the same problem. It's the same problem, quote unquote, with Tracer, right? Tracer does not fit the archetype of what DPS should do in Overwatch 1 when she was released. There was not a single character that functioned like Tracer in Overwatch 1. Not a single one. There was no Wrecking Balls. There's no Sombras. Everything was a soldier. At most, you had a Genji, but everything was pretty direct, right? Damage output. But Tracer always took flanks and always went deep in the backline, right? So I think we can't judge Tracer for people being morons, right? People complaining that Tracer's not a good DPS character, right? I don't think you could do the same thing with the Ball. Cheers, Jobby. I appreciate it, mate. Appreciate the gifted subs. And you can't punish Winston for not being a frontline tank either, right? I don't think you can. I don't think you can judge that. Having only one tank emphasizes the problem, but I don't even think you need to play with a Ball player. You know what I'm saying? Like people say like, oh, you need to know how to play with a good Ball. No, you don't. You just play. You don't. It's more of the responsibility on the Ball to play with you than it is on the other way around. And a good Ball player that knows what they're doing also is able to extend the pressure phase long enough to where you don't have to synchronize everything at the same time. But low ranks don't know that. But that you can't punish the design of the character. Because a Tracer on cart not getting effective value because she's sitting on cart instead of taking a flank, that doesn't make the Tracer design bad. That just makes the player bad. And I don't think that you need every character has to have some like crazy initial skill curve to where like, yeah, if you don't know all the techs and flank hard, then you're not gonna be able to win. But I don't think you can punish a design because it's not immediately appealing to somebody who just started playing the game. If it's not intuitive how to play with a hero, yes, of course it's not. Of course it is. And the same reason why Reinhardt and Winston are both very good tanks, even though they have pretty radically, not radically, but very radically different kits. And Reinhardt might feel more intuitive. Winston is not. You don't punish Winston for that. Winston is not quite as intuitive, but has not infinite, but significantly more expression in multiple different ways. I think you can get bonus points for intuitive, but I don't think you take points away for not being immediately intuitive. I also think that sometimes when you create characters with this level of complexity, Lucio, for example, I actually think that complexity and intuition can sometimes have conflicting goals. Not always, but sometimes have conflicting goals. For example, think about like what's the most complicated movie that you've ever really enjoyed? And ask yourself, would that movie have been better if it had been simpler? Sometimes movies get overcomplicated. There shouldn't be an obfuscation of message or vision, right? But sometimes some of the complication and thinking that you have to put involved is part of the experience. That's what makes it fun and enjoyable and unique, right? We don't compare a Pixar movie to a Christopher Nolan film. We don't go, oh, Christopher Nolan needs to simplify its movie. It should be simple, right? It's apples and oranges. They're great Pixar films. There's great Christopher Nolan films. They could be both great films, but we don't compare. It's comparing apples to oranges. So when you're comparing ball, always not intuitive, lower ranked players don't know how to play. That's the lower ranked players. If you want to sit there and watch Pixar films and not ever watch a Christopher Nolan film or a movie made before 1972, that's fine, but don't sit there and throw stones at that film. Dive is the best meta. I think characters that have mobility are the best characters. Yes. I think you will notice that there is a mobility, a very clear mobility bias in the top half. And I would go as far to say, ego here, that part of this is at least partially objective. Characters with mobility have to make more positioning choices. Characters with mobility have more options of what they can and cannot do. Characters with mobility are not generally as easy to play. And I think that I've made that point many times. Everybody in here generally knows where I stand in that argument, so I won't sit there and beat the dead horse. Pixar films were peak, yes. Many Pixar films are phenomenal, but it's apples and oranges. Anyway. You can't even really compare Genji and Tracer because Tracer, I think, is a better designed character, but Genji has higher peaks, I think. I think Genji has a more unique experience. He gets points for that, I think. All right, go next. All right. Ashe, I think she's all right. I've never been a huge Ashe fan. I think she, I think Dynamite's kind of, I don't know. She just is. She's inoffensive. She's fine. I think maybe you could bump her up just because she is one of the more skillful hit scans in the game. Because I'm sitting here running through my brain and I'm like, I don't know. She's fine. She's fine. She's A tier, to be honest. She's the sniper Widowmaker should have been. Yeah, I agree. But I just can't justify putting Ryan and Ashe in the same tier. I have a hard time putting my finger on what doesn't fully please me about Ashe, but I think that's kind of the nature of this tier list, right? It's not so much what's wrong with Ashe, but there just isn't as much to sing her praises about as there is with the other heroes above her. I think it's not so much of like, it's not you, but it's me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not that there's anything necessarily wrong with her. Dynamite's fine, I guess, and Bob's fine, and the shot, the skill, and unskilled. But that just, like, what is truly an amazing and unique experience with Ashe, design-wise, and I don't know. Like, I guess the reload, the way her gun functions is differently. But I don't know. Like it just is, you know? I don't think she flows as well as some of the other characters. I don't know. It's not. I mean, this is where we talk about like, is it a healthy character for the game? You know, I think Ashe is fine. I don't have any real problems with Ashe. You know, I'd put her higher in that tier list, right? Necessarily, but like, I don't think in terms of a design tier list, there's nothing. You know, I don't even play most of these characters. I have like 5 hours on Tracer. I don't play Lucio at all. He's my worst support hero. I'm a total wash Genji main. I haven't played in years. And I used to be a Rein main, but I don't enjoy playing him as much right now. But you still have to give credit where credit is due. You know. So I don't know. BAP. I think BAP's really low. I think the only thing that keeps BAP from going lower is I think his weapon play is very fluid and enjoyable and a very unique aspect of his kit. But his abilities are really bad. His abilities are really, really bad. Probably the worst support abilities in the game because whereas Kiriko has in many ways more offensive abilities, hers are what in many ways, especially her teleporter, enables a lot of really good things too. At least in some aspects, right? Whereas BAP nobody likes the BAP abilities, right? I think BAP has a lot of work to do. Great gun. That's about all I can say about BAP. Yeah, Sam, we talked about it. We talked about it in the Group Up podcast. Heck, we talked about it in our rework support thing 6 months ago, or if not longer. Yeah, I don't enjoy BAP. It's a shame because his weapon play is really fun. It is a very fun aspect to play versus or with, but it's not. He's not a particularly good design, and he's always been bad. He's always been problematic. Exo boots are unique. Yeah, that's true. Sig is an interesting one. Sig is definitely one that belongs down here as in Overwatch 1. Very not a good compliment in Overwatch 1. You know, more of the worst things that people hated about Tank, but man, is he shot up in Overwatch 2. I think Sig is kind of be one of those things where like, you know, the only reason that he's not higher is because of his competition. But I think there's a lot of aspect. His damage mitigation is very fair, is skillful, takes timing, takes investment, has counterplay. His primary fire is very difficult to land. His stun is a skill shot and on a cooldown. I think Sigma's good. I really do. I think that some of the Sigma metas aren't super fun, but I do think Sigma is a fair tank, lots of counterplay, has a good balance of strengths and weaknesses. I think Sigma is a great example of a character that actually got a lot better in Overwatch 2 than in Overwatch 1. Whereas Sigma is one of the worst tanks in Overwatch 1. He's actually one of the best in Overwatch 2. There's not many aspects of Sigma that you can look at and be like, that's unfair or that's poorly designed. I think pretty much everything with him is even his oldest is cool. Do you think Ryan tier, y'all? The only reason why I'm hesitating Ryan tier is there's nothing really bad to say about him, but there's not as many good things to say. You think Ryan tier? All right, Ryan tier. All right, fair enough. I say there's not as many good things to say about him, but yeah, his primary fire is really unique and his accretion is really unique. Yeah, but that's the map devices. That's the map. Just because Sigma's the only playable tank on Circuit Royale and the like, that's not Sigma's fault. Imagine if you couldn't play Sigma on Circuit Royale. Imagine playing attack into a damage boosted Sojourn, Widowmaker, BAP. You need Sigma to play into it. Like Sigma is like the diva of Overwatch 1 where he makes other DPS and supports playable because he's the only thing that can actually take that space. When I say that about a Widow, everyone goes crazy. What do you mean? Yeah, Sigma is the only reason Sigma is actually what makes Circuit Royale playable. Without Sigma, it would be an even worse, really. I don't think Sigma is as much of an enabler of spam comps as he used to be. He just plays well versus them. So people tend to marry Sigma with spam heroes, but he even in the recent Bastion meta, the reason people were playing Sigma is because Bastion, right? Sigma is what, I mean, imagine, again, Bastion meta, but no Sigma. Like, I mean, imagine how terrible that would feel. Terrible that would feel. Oh, Widow and Oasis. Oh, yeah. The Quack, you could make a very good argument. I made a video about over a year ago, actually, about how Overwatch 2, you could argue that a lot of the Widow problems are more map problems than Widow problems. But y'all aren't ready for that. I made a whole discussion on the problem of one-shots, especially in Overwatch 2, and especially because so many escort maps have these sightlines and not very good flank angles. It's a bit of a problem. But yes, so escort maps and hybrid maps in particular are quite awkward in Overwatch 2. You guys want my anti-5v5 rhetoric? That's the closest I'm going to come to it. You could actually go down the list of escort and hybrid maps, and you could count them. I think every single one has a problematic point. Echo. This is another kind of funny one where actually Echo was really fun, but was actually not that healthy in Overwatch 2 or Overwatch 1 because her tank damage was so high. You got like a damage boosted stickies and beam. In Overwatch 1, you're dead. It doesn't matter if you were a D.Va or Rein, you're dead. It's over. Freaking not a very healthy character in Overwatch 1 in a lot of aspects. Overwatch 2, not as much of a problem, right? Because the tank's got a lot bit more HP to work with. I actually think Echo moves up a little bit. I think you could even argue bumping her all the way up here. Very fair character, very skillful character, very difficult character, a lot of skill ceiling involved. Pretty flexible character. And you can't actually just 3-2-1 sticky tanks over and over and again like you used to in Overwatch 1. So I think she's good. Overwatch 1, she was definitely down here, despite being really fun, just because of how easy it was to kill. Because this is the thing, guys. Like, let's just take a moment to remind ourselves. The last two characters that we've put in this list, for everything that's bad about 5v5, we just bumped up two characters that were really unhealthy for Overwatch 1 to A tier because of 5v5. So I'm not going to go down that discussion. There's bad and there's good. we have to admit that for some characters, 5v5 is exactly what they needed. For some characters. Echo is what Pharah should have been in terms of the verticality. Doom was also bumped up as the rework as well. That's true. That's true. You know, Brig was more of it was not so much a 5v5. I'm talking about 5v5 specifically is why Sigma and Echo moved up. I think Doomfist reworked and 66 probably would have been bumped up either way. So I think Doomfist, it's kind of unfair to lump that with 5v5, I think. Yeah, I'm talking specifically about characters that benefited from 5v5. And I don't think Doomfist or Brig specifically, or even Bap benefited. You could argue that Bap has the potential to benefit from 5v5 a lot because he doesn't need his abilities the way that they are anymore. You could lean Bap more into the more dynamics of weapon play, and he could, because of one fewer tank, you could move Bap up here and rework his abilities. So Bap could move up further because of 5v5. He just hasn't yet. They haven't done the work necessary. Sojourn is hard for me. Sojourn has immense potential, but they've just not done it. And I think I think I'm gonna have to put her in here. Because it makes me so upset to put her there because she belongs in A tier. She belongs in A tier. The problem is that we have the environment first off of damage boost. So as long as Mercy's in this game, Sojourn's going to be dragged down to help me. She's literally chained down here because of Mercy. But it's not just Mercy. I think the rail doing the amount of damage that it does, the primary fire feeling as bad as it does is what keeps her there. If you had changed 3 things, you removed damage boost from the game, you reduced rail damage to like 130 headshot, right? Or 120 headshot. And then 3, reduce the delay, or 4 things, I guess. 3, reduce the delay between primary fire and secondary fire, right? That's a P and a 2, I promise. So that you're not punished for railing. Because the problem, if you reduce rail damage, there's a delay between it's the opposite. It's after secondary. It's after your rail into your primary fire. So rail to primary fire, there's a delay. If you reduce that delay, so you're not punished for doing a rail that does a lot less damage. And then 4, you tightened her spread or reduced damage, whatever. She has the Ramattra effect where her primary fire is too bad at medium to long ranges, and especially on moving targets. And if you were able to do those things and lean into the Soldier 76 with slightly less range and more vertical mobility with burst through rail, she would be an A tier DPS. Very fluid, very fun, very fair in some aspects, but she just has these issues that they refuse to fix. I don't even think rail size is a problem if it just didn't do as much damage as it is. I think 130 or 120 headshot would be totally fine. Because if you reduce the delay between rail and primary fire by a lot, then it would still be much higher DPS to go for the rail. It'd be a good finishing blow. Sojourn's one of those characters where like her balance is keeping her down here. Her design overall has a lot of potential, but it's not well balanced right now, so she can't go higher. I don't feel like her effectiveness is based on the enemy tank hitbox, and that's why you blame the state of rail and the state of her primary fire. It's one of the worst. Sojourn is absolutely, you should feel sick to your stomach with what they've done to Sojourn since her release. They have gone the complete wrong direction, and I told them this over and over again in the Overwatch League Discord on her release. I told them this. I told exactly what I'm telling you now. I told them this. And they did not listen. And so she's still a very frustrated and frustrating and not a very hated hero in some aspects. Sojourn fun levels are so tied to the rail, though. I totally disagree. The reason why so much of her fun levels are tied to the rail is because her primary fire feels so bad. The reason why is because nobody wants to use her current state of primary fire. You have to bring the primary fire up while you bring the rail down. And you don't even necessarily nerf the rail, you just nerf the rail damage. You buffing the time from rail to shooting again is a pretty significant buff. It's one of the most awkward things about Sojourn is you rail, delay, shoot. And you reduce that or remove that, a lot of things about Sojourn's rail feels better. Her primary fire will always feel bad. And I just totally disagree. I was there, Gandalf. I was there on the alpha. Her primary fire, first off, was already better than it is right now. It felt fine on release. They could have made it even better on release, and it would have been fine. But they've done nothing but make it worse. Anything where your primary fire is an enabler is absurd to me. That is just terrible choice. It's so disappointing to me. This is probably the character that is the biggest gap between where she is and where she could be, I think. Maybe we've talked about that with a couple other characters. I know we talked a little bit about with Mauga, a little bit with Bap. Maybe Cassidy could be bumped up to here as well if they made some. But it's frustrating to say the least. Because Sojourn was the first time when I picked Sojourn in Alpha, I was like, oh my gosh, this character feels amazing. This slide feels so much fun. The rail gun mechanic is really fun. Like the whole idea of a rail is really fun. And they ruined her. And to be fair, she was ridiculously busted and there was a lot of things wrong with her initially, but they ruined her. They've done nothing to make her better. They've done nothing to make her better outside of reducing it, making it slightly less frustrating to play versus. And this is what I'm talking about when you can't just nerf characters. You have to look at what was wrong with the character and address what was wrong without breaking the character. And that's what they did. You can't just tweak numbers till the cows come home. Collat and Ultimate is also fun. Exactly. I mean, imagine it. I don't know. I don't want to talk about it. Makes me sad. Jolly, yeah, I do think Sombra could be bumped up as well. Although I'm not convinced that Sombra will ever be able to like break beyond this tier without like some major stuff things. But oh well. It is what it is. Yeah, I think Junkerqueen's A tier. Yeah, 100%. Very, 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 very good character design. Initially, she was like B tier because her shout was like really broken, but they did some number tweaks to her. I also like that they upped her bleed damage and her bleed heal because that was pretty forgettable on release. Like outside of Carnage, even with Carnage, it just didn't really matter all that much. Now it actually feels like it's not a broken part of her kit, but it is a noticeable part of her kit. You know what I'm saying? To where it's like, it's not a huge thing, but it is something that you actually notice. And that you want it to be tangible, the choices and the things that I'm doing. Like when I go for shot melee and I get a tick, a little bit of healing, like that should actually matter a little bit here, right? I like that they had a character whose damage mitigation isn't through a shield or raw healing. Her hitbox, now that they fixed that, the shout in terms of temporary HP plus speed, her ability to set up her own plays through Gracie, which is a very difficult to land skill shot. Her ultimate is a little tweaky at times, just with Suzu and stuff. But I think Junkerqueen's great. I mean, she's had moments where she was a little too strong or a little too weak, and I think like regardless of like overall strength, I think Junkerqueen's good. Very, very fun character and has some decent dynamics of how she can play as well. I want to skip the hard ones. We'll get to the hard ones. I think Lifeweaver belongs in F tier. I think everything about his kit rubs me the wrong way. His hitbox is still too big. His damage is still too high, and the spread and the travel time is still too slow. It also lacks there's nothing interesting about his weapon at all. Outside of the initial Titan on the spread, heal is really bad. Very, very boring heal. Nothing interesting about the heal. Pedal is bad. Pull is the most fun part of the kit and also the most controversial. Tree is dull. Just terrible character. Terrible. Above Moira for sure. That's true. Yeah, that is true. I would give him above Moira. But no. I actually think Illari belongs down here as well. Now, I know that you guys are going to be like, wait, what? No way with Illari. This character is just not well designed. They gave a character a charge rifle and a pylon. And then they gave her mobility that she never uses at all. And that's it. Her ultimate's the best part of her kit in terms of design. Even the way her weapon sounds is a big disappointment. There's no dynamics to this character. You take an angle, you pylon, you shoot. That's it. Why so much hair? She's one of those characters that she was like okay, let me give you a good design. Let me give you a good analogy here, all right? You watch I'm going to make some people mad with this one too. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. It's 1999. You're 5 years old. You go with your dad to the movie theater and you watch freaking Darth Maul with a double-bladed lightsaber. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is insane. This is insane. And you go again and you watch the movie when you're 7 and when you're 10 and the action scenes are 6 and you're 12 and there's some talk about politics and negotiations and then Jar Jar Binks and then you're 14 and then you're 16 and then there's Jar Jar Binks and then you're 18 and you're 20 and it's Jar Jar Binks and you're 22 and then there's the stupid alien things that sound like bad Chinese racist caricatures and oh no. Right? It's like the first time you played Illari, you're like, whoa, ult feels sick, and I'm popping off, and then you're like, and that was it. Like when your first impression of a character is as good as it gets, the character is not well designed. Characters should be, wow, this is fun, but wait, there's more. With Illari, it's the opposite. This is it. It's not getting any better than this, so you better enjoy it. So it's like, that's my problem with Illari. There's just nothing to her. That's it. Well, this is fun, but wait, there's less. I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, it really is just that. I think the biggest lackluster things is if their pylon was more engaging and more challenging to use. We learned this with Sombra. When there's more risk involved, the character becomes more interesting. So even if they did nothing about pylon, but did the Symmetra change where they changed the duration and had like a certain timer, that would instantly make the character slightly more interesting. I agree with you. I think the mobility is extremely disappointing, not interesting, not fun, very limited with what it can do. That's another low-hanging fruit. I even think the whole way that her design of she heals here, but you could definitely do things to make Illari bump up, but I actually don't know that there's a lot that you could do. Yeah, it's disappointing. It's a lot of fun the first time you play it, which made it immediately better. People were just so. I think the other thing that poisons our impression of Illari as well is that people were so desperate after Lifeweaver to just play a character that had mechanics and actually felt fun. And Illari comes in like, the white savior kind of a thing, and oh, look at that, everything's gonna save. But she just wasn't it, right? She just wasn't it, and it was like that initial, like the impression of, but it really wasn't what she wasn't what she thought she was. And people were so starved for skill play and hitting shots. Sun Girl saved me exactly. The story was really good. The character was. I actually think Illari is probably one of the more interesting characters that we've had for a while because she's just a kid basically, and she's been under a lot of trauma, and she's desperate to prove herself and desperate to do the right thing right now. And there's a lot of things that they could do with that character, especially compared with Mauga and Lifeweaver. Like there's a lot there. But it's a disappointment. I actually think her voice acting is also is quite good too, I think. But biggest problem is how people pronounce her name, bro. I had to fight tooth and nail. I had to flex that I have a Peruvian friend card. I cannot even tell you how many times. It's Illari. And when you say it fast, it sounds like Illari. And I'm white, so that didn't help me a lot. But people were like, "No, it's Illari or Illari." Yeah, I can't even do it. It's like the Spanish. I'm like, it's not Spanish. It's Quechua. It's Quechua. It's not Spanish. It's Quechua. It's a native intellect from Peru. Moria. Yeah, Moria. That one. That one is pet peeve. The Mines of Moria. Oh, man. But yeah, that's okay. Actually, I think worse than Illari might have been. Do you guys remember Brigitte? Wow, that was a long year. I mean, dude, most people still can't pronounce her name correctly. Yeah, I pulled out the Peruvian friend card. How to cringe. Listen, guys, I have friends with melanin. Not a big deal. Occasionally I get some sun myself. So, oh yeah, Brigitte. Yeah, it was Brigitte. That was a funny one. Oh. Sometimes I acquire a single. I'm a bit of a melanin myself. I guess we could do Ramattra first, then we go to Kiriko because Kiriko might be the hardest one. Ramattra kind of falls in this category for me. I think he has potential with things like his Omnic. I think with his Vortex. I actually don't even really hate the whole idea of the punch. It's more the block that I don't like. So I think Ramattra has potential to be here, but isn't. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Great voice actor, great physical design, cool character. Not a well-designed hero. Like, and I think the problem with Ramattra is he has so much potential. Actually, you know what? Ramattra really kind of falls in the Sojourn category, I think, where there's so much potential, but man, they got so much wrong. The shield, terrible. One on a long cooldown, 1,000 HP, terrible. Vortex, not the best iteration of that ability they could have done. Block, garbage. Nemesis, gun, or Omnic gun, terrible iteration of a weapon of that variety. Way too slow of projectile speed and probably too much damage. Ultimate, don't even get me started on the ultimate, right? So there's so many boxes to check off with Ramattra. Yeah. He is fixable, right? You know, I 100% agree. I mean, if you, again, Overwatch tank rework guide on YouTube, we I think fixed a lot of his issues. I think if they did incorporated and then tweaked numbers appropriately, the things that we said with Ramattra, I think immediately he jumps to B tier. I think the whole idea of having a tank that fidgets between a more of a ranged and close range format is pretty cool. They just did a terrible job of it. That's all. I can fix him. I can definitely fix him. Bro, tell me that you guys would not want to try to fix Ramattra. Tell me. I mean, that guy's a Giga Chad. Who wouldn't try? That was like an abused girlfriend. Yeah. How's it going? Fine. Omnic boy, save me. Yeah. Yeah. Hero design tier list. Yeah. But yeah. Anyway. All right. So this is the real tricky one. This Kiriko is like the 50-50 character. Let's put it that way. Where there is a lot of good things to say about Kiriko. Very fun to play. Very unique. Brought not necessarily an unhealthy play style to the game, and definitely feels like the more Overwatch 2 support. But really, like so many other characters, wasn't done as well as she should have been. Yeah, exactly. It feels like the A and S tier, or S and F tier at the same time, right? Where aspects like teleporter is what enables Kiriko to do things that are really good, but because you can teleport from so long away on such a low cooldown through walls, feels really bad. Suzu, in many ways, is disables some of the worst things in Overwatch 2, but does so easily, and also disables some of the best things in Overwatch 2. The ability to make plays is great, but the size of her kunai, her hitbox, the spamming that she does, not so great. Maybe this is simple enough. Maybe this is, again, like a character where it's like we put her in C, because of there are good things about her, but she. I think there. Okay, sounds crazy. I think there's A tier potential for Kiriko, but just not right now. Just not right now. I think if you adjust Suzu, you adjust her hitbox. The challenge with Kiriko that's always weird to me is it's always like, why is her win rate so low? You know, is she just harder to play than people think? Like, she really is a really low win rate support. So whenever we talk about like what Kiriko needs, it always feels like nerfs. But then it's like, well, then what would you buff? You don't want to buff her healing per second, because that was the worst iteration of Kiriko. So I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe, you know, okay, here's an interesting thought. The more I've played with Kiriko, the less I like the triple headshot multiplier. Is it triple still, or is it 2.5? Yeah, I was just about to say that for Ashi. I feel like I feel like in some ways that feels like that should be higher skill, but I really do not like that the more I've played with it over the last year and a half. I think having a double headshot time to kill on a character that can disengage any is too much. I think they should reduce it, honestly. But you know what? There's so many ways that they could approach this, and I think they'd have to do some things one at a time. Like you wouldn't want to nerf Kunai's hitbox and nerf the multiplier at the same time. I don't think you want to do that. I think you want to do one or the other and let it sit and see what happens. And you wouldn't want to do that, for example, and also nerf her teleport, like make you have to do it through a teammate through walls or something like that. Without, everything. The thing with Kiriko is everything affects everything. There is no one cooldown that exists in a vacuum because her entire dynamic of playstyle and like her flow chart and like cooldown cycle, everything, it's like a Jenga thing. Everything, like every block is resting on the other thing. So if you pull out one, the whole thing might come crashing down. So you need to be very careful. Like even just buffing her hitbox, like making her hitbox a little bit bigger and like slowing her fire rate down would have a huge impact on what she does. So, I don't know. I think there's a lot of ways that you'd have to look at Kiriko. I think she has potential. There's a lot of good things about Kiriko. There's a lot of bad things about Kiriko. I'm curious to see what they do. It's just more the strafe animation, the hitbox itself. That's true, yeah. Yeah, the spam... Wait a second. Let's look at overbuff here really quick. I don't even know if overbuff stuff is updated. So don't take this as gospel, guys. I know we're just doing all win rates and stuff, but like I think this is like, it's an eye check, I mean, like, look at that. Like let's actually look at competitive. Competitive last 3 months. It's not great, It's not great, It's the lowest support win rate in competitive. Should be higher in Grandmaster in theory because but see, even in Grandmaster, it's not even a 50% win rate. That's crazy. It's the third lowest support. And it's competing with Lifeweaver and Moira, which is way harder to play than those characters. I don't really think that you also swapped into the loss situations, though, kind of skews the win rate. That's true. Yeah, so this definitely does not tell the full story at all. There are certain things that will heavily sway this number. Which is why, hint, Blizzard, you shouldn't really use this as a real balance metric, but it is interesting. Now, here's the funny thing, though. Here's the funny thing. That's actually crazy how low Illari's pick rate is. This is a new hero, guys. And it's losing to Lifeweaver. Lifeweaver, the older hero with the worst design, has a higher pick rate than Illari. That's crazy. Telling you, there's only so much this character does. It's just not fun. But yeah. Anyway, I think I'm pretty pleased with this list. I think that like this is, I mean, obviously it's my tier list, so duh. But I think we were relatively balanced, I think. Widow is mega misplaced. I disagree. I don't think, again, just because they're on the bottom doesn't mean that like red alert, they have to be fixed immediately. Like, I really don't think Torbjorn is like that big of a deal. He's fine as he is for right now. But like, fine as is for right now, I guess. Even Lifeweaver is like, whatever. He's fine. Just leave him. I think there's some of these heroes down here I think need to be changed sooner rather than later, but I think Widow, Torb, Lifeweaver, whatever, for right now. But I'm not gonna. I still don't agree with the points. Just because the character is skillful doesn't necessarily mean that the design is good. there's some there, and I think that's something that you have to. I think skillful is good, but not all skillful is created alike. Yeah, I think everybody in chat here is going to disagree with. If you don't disagree with at least 4 or 5 placements, then you're a simp. But hopefully nobody, wigs out totally. Where is Mama Wong? Mama Hong? What do you think about Venture? No idea. I refuse to have an opinion about Venture. Have we seen ARX's Moira? I'm aware of it. I disagree with 32 of the placements, but I'm still a simp. Huh. When the devs add Pigpen. Yeah, I don't want to talk about Pigpen. The Luffy cosplayer. I'm never going to live that one down, am I? Why are so many heroes in the bottom of the list? You tell me. It's not like we don't have anybody in S or A tier, I mean, Overwatch has not done a very good job initially designing and or updating their characters. There's a huge gap between Tracer and Bastion.